Welcome, everyone. Today is March the 17th, and I am here today with Matthew Ashton. He's the Gene Key facilitator, and I'm Sandra Gamechangergameone. I do astrology and numerology. We are going to have a little chat today about the big shifts and changes that have happened in the world. And I would just like to start off just with a little basic prayer, and then we're going to move on. So it is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's what we are going to be talking about today, because you can wake up one day and the whole world has changed, which has happened. So Matthew, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what we talked about with the Gene Keys and what's happening in the world right now?
Yeah, so the body of work, the Gene Keys, really can help to add and contribute and connect well with the astrology. So where astrology, the work that you do, Sandra, is really good at showing, okay, these are the events happening in the world right now. These are planetary events happening in the world right now, and these are how they're influencing us. Because I remember you were talking about how January the 10th and 12th, I think it was, you've been talking about this for months, how you saw this shift was coming, there was changes coming. Didn't know what it was, we couldn't predict what it was, but we knew something was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that week, because I was paying attention, that we first started to realize that there's something coming out with this whole coronavirus. And so it's something that's now becoming what it is, where now here we're in this space where most of us are being asked to stay home. I'm here in British Columbia, you're there in Alberta. It's being recommended that we stay home. And, you know, we can agree or disagree with how governments are handling it, how other groups, how local governments are handling it. But like you said, it's like really surrendering to what is. So we're being asked to stay here. And the Gene Keys is a body of work that helps us to really come to know our sense of contribution. And I think, you know, we can all agree that with this time that we have to ourselves, that we've seen some of the memes on Facebook. There's lots of memes going around about this whole thing. Two geniuses were birthed during the time of the plague back in England. We saw Sir Isaac Newton, who brought us the theory of gravity, and who had other stuff related to calculus and other mathematical stuff. He birthed a lot of his genius in the time that he wasn't able to go to the University of Cambridge. He had to stay at home. And then we see that Shakespeare, he was also somebody who was isolated during that time and birthed books like King Lear, or plays like King Lear. And so I feel like it's real prime time for us to be able to go inwards and start to connect with who we are and what our unique genius is. And that's what the Gene Keys body of work does. And I love how it works in alignment with the astrology. And one of the interesting things is that we're going to have the time, right? Whether we want to or not. And we're responding to it all in different ways. So there's no judgment in how any of us responds to it at this time. It's all new to us. We've got to sit with it and be with it. So some of us are, we're going to load up on snacks. We're going to maybe enjoy a few Netflix movies, that kind of thing. And at some point, relatively speaking, we're all going to face this boredom that we feel, right? Because there's going to be boredom. But out of great things is birth boredom. You know, the Gene Keys actually was birthed out of the boredom of Richard Rudd, because he was in this isolated place by himself where all he could do was look inwards and reflect, and boom, out popped this stream of consciousness that became the Gene Keys. And so I feel like this is an incredible opportunity for us to, as well as having those other experiences, is also looking at what it is that our souls really hunger for, and being able to step out into the world with them. And so I think it's really, like you said, there's real opportunities for breakthroughs in humanity. That doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable. That doesn't mean we're not going to face fears. It doesn't mean that we're not going to experience some sadness, some grief, some loss. It doesn't mean we're not going to experience those things. It just means that if we maintain that connection to that divine source within, that we can navigate this very differently than if we just succumb to the fear, the doubt, the pain.
Yeah, the fear, the doubt, the pain, and the victimization. So it's moving
Yeah.
from the victim to be able to say, I can handle this. Again, with the process of self-discovery, which to me, Matthew, which the Genekeys is, and which the astrology is. They're both really good self-discovery tools. And that premise of the book Game Changer, it was all about the shift, the different breakthroughs that we're going to come through, and the different eras we've come through. We're moving from the Piscean more to the Aquarian, and how does that affect us? And as you said in January, like we are going through a major, it started in 2007, 2008. It'd be interesting to see, well, I'm sure that the same kind of things happen in Genekeys, Matthew, but with the astrology, it moves, and we got hit 2019 last year that we were to kind of work on ourselves and be more authentic. And then January 11th and 12th happened. And it's like, okay. And what I do want to say is sometimes if we don't listen, we are hit with a 2x4 and it lays you on your back. There are some people right now that are doing fine with what's going on. There are other people that are absolutely frenzied. It's almost like cat that would put their tail or something into a light bulb or an electrical outlet, and your nerves are frayed. So we want to talk about this today, and then we want to give you some tools and different things that you can do to be able to assist yourself with. Okay. So Matthew, do you want to show them a gene key and how you work it? And I would say that from my point of view, this is what I'm giving today, because there is a prize. For anybody that watches this, contacts, I will give a free reading away to one person. I'm going to draw in the hat. I'll give 5 days before I draw it, and I will contact them. I think, Matthew, you wanted to give a reading away.
Yes. Well, why don't we, because they complement one another, so
right.
We could do it so that the same person gets, whoever gets pulled out of the hat gets one of each, because then they get the tag team combination, right?
That would be perfect, because then they can see what it's like, and actually we could even interview them on how they liked it. Okay.
Absolutely.
From it.
Yeah, because I find them very symbiotic. Like just last week, you were giving me a reading on my chart, and it was talking and speaking of things that were aligning now, things that my gene key chart don't show me. So they complement each other very well. And I think actually that's what we can do, right? I can bring up, I have a chart here. So this is just a snippet of my chart, my Genekeys chart. And I can look at this Genekeys chart and share it with you, hopefully. Technology, work for me. Here we go.
I have to learn
so
that.
this is my chart here. This is just an answer. All of those circles normally have numbers and words in them. Right now, I've just highlighted the 2 that are called the life's work and evolution. And so here we have my life's work gene key is 2. My evolution gene key is 1, right? Then I have, it says 0.5 and 0.5. And so that's what's called a line number. But I'm going to focus mainly on the gene key right now for each of them. So my life's work and evolution are what I'm here to do and what I'm here to learn. And associated with that is there's 2 words. So if I look at the life's work gene key of 2, the shadow is dislocation and the gift is orientation, right? So dislocation happens when I feel lost, when I feel disconnected, when I feel dislocated from the whole, where I haven't got a connection to spirit, where I haven't got a connection to nature, where I haven't got a connection to community. So right now, you know, if you had told me 10 years ago that I had to isolate myself in a house for maybe 3 months, who knows how long, and just be complete by myself, I would have fallen right into the shadow of dislocation. Now, that doesn't mean I don't experience the shadow of dislocation. It means I can experience it with some awareness. And then the gift of orientation, it comes from a place of total surrender, right? This is a total surrender to what is, to what's unfolding. So it's perfect in line with what the prayer that you opened this up with, and how to meet this situation. I don't know what the outcome of it's going to be for each of us. We can, the mind wants certainty. And so for me, the gift of orientation comes in when I'm able to trust. And what I can trust is the present moment. What I can trust is that the fact that there are collective and individual fears that are coming to the surface now, that we can make them wrong and tell people they're silly and stupid for having these fears. Or we can recognize that these are fears that we all hold in the collective that are up for transformation right now. So the fear of not enough, the fear of not being supported. We could name probably a dozen other fears that are arising out of this. Fear of losing work, fear of losing loved ones. There's many different fears. And so trusting that this time now by ourselves is, if I make the most of it, then I can step into this gift of orientation. And this is where I play this role with others, because orientation is about helping to realign ourselves with our true north, with our true direction, with our true nature. And that's the whole purpose of the Genekeys body of work. So it's absolutely divine that it landed across my path, because this is one way that I can bring this into the world. Because I've got a second gene key there does not mean I'm guaranteed to work with the Genekeys, but it just is one vehicle that I can use. Now, the evolution is what I'm here to learn. And because I'm by myself, because I'm in, and I'm not completely by myself, I've got my wife here and I've got neighbors close by, but because we're taking these steps to minimize the risk to those who are vulnerable, like my grandmother right now, and who's 94 years old, it's talking to her through means that can work. And so out of this we can birth fresh ideas. The gift of this first gene key is freshness. So I'm kind of excited as to what other possibilities might emerge from this. The shadow is entropy. This is where our fears and our sadness and stuff has become so stuffed down in humanity, right? That we haven't honored it. We haven't connected with it. And so it has to move through us. So right now we're witnessing the entropy moving through us, and we can fight it and we can resist it, or we can accept it as part of this evolution. So again, something always births when I move through the shadow of entropy and into the gift of freshness. There's new ideas, there's new ways of doing things. And so that's why throughout this all, while I recognize the pain of others, the suffering of others, I also see that these are opportunities for each of us to step into our role as creators, to step into our gene keys. So that's just my gene keys. Your gene keys, your life's work gene key is 54. And that one's about aspiration, the gift of aspiration, raising people to a higher awareness of their unity, their connection with one another, right? And so it's, it's highlighting the shadow of where we're greedy and selfish, and turning that and recognizing that if we give and support one another in these times, then we can really flourish as a community. So these are really, times like these are very, very potent times for us to go inwards and discover the kinds of things that we're here to do and the kind of differences that we can make in the world. So that's it, just from the lens of the gene keys. And that's just the first two. Like there's way more that are in there that I could explore. But for usually the life's work and evolution, it's going to be our shadows that get triggered by the world. So not by the world, but our shadows, those parts of ourselves that we don't like, those places where we still feel like the victim and we're not even aware of it, right? That can be triggered by some of these life events right now. And so I do believe that this pressure is being put on each of us in a way so that we can really expand into our true gifts and really reveal them to others, and each person bringing their own genius into community. Because we've talked about genius, and you know, a lot of times people think of somebody like Albert Einstein. It was his birthday the other day, right? So he's typically somebody that is thought of as a genius, and yet every single one of us has our own unique genius. And the first 4 circles of the Genekeys is about that. It's about understanding what our unique genius is and the value we bring to our community. So that's it through the lens of the Genekeys. And then you could send them over to Sandra, and she could look at my actual chart, right? My natal chart, and then based upon what we're going through with the planets right now, and this is where I have no clue. It's like I look at this, it's like, whoa, how do I work? And then Sandra comes in and says,
and I go, oh my goodness, first of all, I see that this man is highly intuitive, and that's a great gift. Okay? Then I look and I go, wow, he has got a lot of experience in the business world and in the outer world, and he's been a warrior. Okay, now that's past life. Now, what he's doing in this life is helping people, I would say, in honestly, Matthew, it's like a soul retrieval. Okay, it's like the basic soul. You got to go deep to find your purpose and to find your meaning. Like that's at the very bottom. And then I go, wow, is he ever shifting here? So right now with the transiting planets, we've got Mars, we've got Jupiter, we've got Saturn, we've got Pluto. Guess what? They're all in his 7th and 8th houses on the right hand side. So he's going through a tremendous amount of shifts with relationships and also with his own transformation and with helping others in transformation. And then when I look at the 10th, then we have to watch the planets move. And that's what I wanted to say. Right now we're in a heavy Saturn, which is about the teeth. Okay, you are being taught. And like Matthew said, you can either start going with the flow or you can resist it. Okay, but as I think it is March 21st to July 1st, this year important, we're going to see where Saturn starts to move into Aquarius, and that will start moving up into Matthew's 9th house. So I would say, Matthew, in the next year or two, I would have to look at it closer. You're going to be doing some traveling with your work, and there's going to be more of an expansion, okay? And then from March 7th, and then from December 20th of 2020 right through till 2023, okay, we are going to get Pluto, which is the transformative planet that goes boom, okay? So there's Pluto, that's transformation, Uranus, the awakener, Saturn, the teacher, Jupiter expands it all. That's what we're going through, is we've been asked to shift more into that Aquarian energy, which I'll have another session on, because at that time to go within, which is what we're doing right now, Matthew, is helping them to go within and to see what their gifts are, so that you can be more self-sufficient, more independent, and balance the left and right brain, the head and the heart and the masculine and feminine, and to find your purpose. And this is interesting because I was just talking to a gal today, and there's been a lot of relationship shifts, a lot of sadness and whatever relationships, and I'll do another session on that. But a lot of times we're really coming into a time, Matthew, of purpose. What is our meaning and what is our purpose? Okay, so we're not so narcissistic, it's just about us, but it makes us feel good. We've got our gifts. What can we do with our gifts? And so relationships are breaking, are ending, because some people are starting to move into what their gifts are. And so sometimes they're happy and sometimes they're sad because they're not understanding it. As you said, this is an incredible time of breakthrough. And I think this is what I wanted it to be, Matthew, to help people see opportunities and possibilities and what we can do. And some of the suggestions I would say is take care of yourself. And as you say, don't resist if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling bored. Sit with it, okay? Don't deflect it into, or I shouldn't say deflect it. Something is, sometimes we can eat or drink or purchase or online. I bet you the online stores, everybody's going to be buying stuff, okay? Which again is the financial responsibility, because finances are valued. How do we value ourselves? So if we don't take care of our finances, we're devaluing ourselves, and then we have stress and worry. And now for the stress, it's really important to take care of ourselves. Like being outside, Matthew, is good. I know Lavender, I'm working with a reflexology with my feet. So it's more about self-care. So that's what I have to say. It's an incredible opportunity.
Absolutely. And yeah, everything that you're saying there is that we can have these great spiritual principles and ways of living and forgive and be compassionate, and some of that starts with ourselves and the embodiment of that and the kinds of things that we're doing to support our immune system at this time. I do something called the Wim Hof method, which has been amazing for me in terms of just my overall strength and immunity. And then there's, watching the nutritional supplements we're taking. We're making sure we've got thieves oil going through our diffuser right now. So it's like taking these steps to minimize the kinds of toxins that are around us and keep the flow. We smudge the house out. We light San Paolo, Palo Santo.
Palo Santo, yeah.
Yes, we light that. And so we're taking these steps, and that is very important, because we need to be able to have that. If we're going inwards, it's helpful to have as few distractions from the environment as possible and as much support from the environment as possible. So, some people are creating altar spaces right now. We've got our sheepskin rugs that we like to sit on and meditate. So we know that they're there for the meditation, and then they're folded away. And so these are all ways that we can take that inner responsibility, because that's what we're seeing a lot of, is that there's these discussions about who's being responsible and who's not being responsible. And all I can ever really be responsible is for how I respond. That's my responsibility, right? And so other people may be overreacting with fear, but if I overreact to them, then I'm only keeping and perpetuating overreaction in the community. And so I feel it's, this journey with the Genekeys in relationships. We can look at two people's charts in a relationship, and we can see this is what you're accountable for. You cannot, change this or do this for another. They have to do their own work. And, a lot of parents right now, their kids are around, and they're concerned that their kids are picking up things from, all the fear in the world and that kind of thing. And so, the best thing that parents can do is sit with their own fears, breathe through their own fears, transmute their own fears, because then they're embodying that wisdom. If they're telling kids not to be scared, but doing nothing about feeling into their own fears and healing their own fears, then it just keeps that cycle of codependency rocking on, right?
Right. It's the codependency, Matthew, and then it's being a hypocrite, and it's not being authentic. And right now, we need to become authentic. We really need to have this self-discovery. We really need to go within. And basically, that's what Game Changer was about. Another thing I like when you talk about the space, because guess what's happening? We have spring equinox coming. Okay, and I did put an article, and I have a video on it. And what do we do every spring? We declutter, we clean. And so it's decluttering the mind, it's decluttering the emotions, because we need to have self-mastery over our emotions. And that doesn't mean self-mastery like this. It's letting them come up, really looking at them. And also it's making sure your closets are clean, because I can walk into a house and it doesn't look bad. And if I was in the closet, everything falls out. This is a time to really go within and do some real decluttering. Look at a feng shui, look at a lot of the feng shui principles. I forgot about the thieves, Matthew, and I have that. And just to do lavender, I know lavender is one that has equal masculine and feminine and is very healing. And to make sure that you have good quality oils, not the ones from the dollar store, because they have a petrochemical base and they will affect the brain. So it's to take the, I think it's a beautiful time. Matthew, I really want to thank you for taking the time, and I do hope that everybody that does hear the message, it can help you in a certain way, number one. And number two, remember, this is a self-discovery time, and this is a great year for it. It always is. But for
it's always a great year for it. But yeah, it's being made, circumstances are making it so that we can't avoid ourselves. We're being, you know, it's like, I felt like here at the beginning of the year, we had lots of snow and we were snowed in, and then we had storms, and then and it just seemed like one thing after another that was saying, sit still, buckle up, and go in and get to know you, and and not get to know you so that your life is better, and so that it's get to know you so that yes, your life is better, and so you also know how you can best support the planet at this time too. And when I say planet, I mean it could be your local community, it could be your family, right? It's you know, like I've often heard you say, this isn't about finding our purpose so that we can be famous or anything like that. Our purpose is the essence that we carry into everything that we do. Our purpose is, you know, so if we work at a bank, we carry that essence into our work there. We don't wait until our life changes to live on purpose. We bring, and this is where the Genekeys helps people, and the astrology. It's like, bring this purpose right here into this present moment, because that's the only moment that we're guaranteed. And so if, you know, I can say I'm living on purpose. And 10 years ago, I couldn't say that because I was looking for purpose outside of myself. Now, just having this conversation with you, even if there was nobody else watching, I know I'm living on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And you know, Matthew, I've been very blessed to have a really diverse life. Okay, a lot of tough times, but a lot of transformation. That's my big thing. It's all transformation. Okay, and working with others, and it gives me such great pleasure. And I can be pretty passionate, so people know it's not that I'm upset. I just feel so intensely, and all the years I've worked with students, some in school, some in prisons, some in youth offenders, all kinds of people I've done. Nothing makes me happier than when they get it. You know, and especially students, I feel that they've been cheated if we just let them move. It's like I try to push them. And then when you see them, it's like the butterfly. I always said to you even months ago, I feel that there's a lot of people in, is it the Gralis? Yeah, and what it is to become the butterfly, to become free, and everybody has a gift, and it doesn't matter what your gift is. Your gift you will find. I can promise, and I don't promise a lot until I know it's for sure. I promise that if you take the time for self-discovery, you take that time, work with the Genekeys, work with the astrology, or if you have somebody, but not anybody that falls, oh my God, this is so wonderful, because this is tough work. This is like physical fitness, you know, you got to get that. You will find your purpose and you will find meaning. And it's funny because I got a call from a lady the other day that I worked with about 2 or 3 years ago. And she had mentioned she's in her 40s. And she goes, okay, I'm ready. I want to think about transformation and transition into what I'm going to do. She goes, I can't handle the word retirement. And I go, it's just a transition. You're transitioning. Okay. And that's it. So I just would like to say, everybody, just take care of yourself. It's hard to say, stay out of the fear. I think for me, it would be mindful, be aware, and be your observer and be your own witness of what's happening to you. Instead of looking outward and pointing the finger, I just look in the mirror and say, what's happening with me? What do I need to look at? And so, and like I said, make sure, and I would hope that you would like this video. If you would maybe want to subscribe to it, put your names down, get a hold of us. I'll have it on the little thing. So we'll have a reading for somebody, we'll draw it, and it's done within the week. And think of purchasing the book, The Game Changer. It's about self-discovery, but you can just go and look at some of the videos because there is a synopsis on every chapter. Matthew, how would you finish it?
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely. I think, you know, it is, yeah, it's buckle up and be present. You know, we can't, you know, we're going to feel the suffering of others. We're going to feel suffering of the world, but we don't have to close down because of it. We're in a time where we're being really asked to keep our hearts open in the presence of that. And as we keep our hearts open, we really do anchor our gifts into the world. We bring these, we become an embodiment, all the spiritual wisdom that we've learned and studied, and we embody it through the experiences in life. You know, if we don't embody it through the experiences of life, they just become intellectual knowings. They don't become heart knowings. And so this is the time that we're all being called together. We're being called to step into this. We're being called to know all of this, know our spiritual teachings at the level of our heart, to practice them, to live them, to love them. And so, yes, it's a time of rebirth, and rebirths are often uncomfortable.
Right, but we can handle it. And
we can handle it. We got this, kids.
We got this, and so hope we can help you. Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a super day.